What is up, everybody? So for today's video, we're going to be checking out Blade Breakdown and Details You Missed. If you guys did not check out the last video, I basically I did my reaction to Blade. I never saw the movie Blade up until that point, so it was just fucking crazy to me how the fucking movie turned out to be. So I'm actually gonna check out Blade 2. So with that being said, I want to check out, the breakdowns and stuff. Cause I know I can't really do. I try to do the editing version of the movie and stuff. It didn't really work out. Fuck Movavi, by the way. But anyways, we are just gonna do a reaction to the breakdown of Blade. So without further ado, let's check this shit out. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and we know Blade is coming back to the MCU, and I'm so dang stoked on it, so much so that I've decided to rewatch the first Blade movie that dropped in 1998. And guess what? It's still great. It still holds up. Some of y'all could have been, into adulthood at the time, or graduating middle school, or not even been born. So please, let me show you all the things I've spotted that stood out to me as things that can and should be moved from the original 1998 movie Blade to our newer one that's coming in 2024. A breakdown, if you will. Thank you to Marvel Snap for sponsoring this video. More on them in a moment. While the 1998 Blade originates from Earth 26320, the new Blade should take place on Earth 616. So the characters and the storyline could be different, but we could still get these glimpses, homages, or just justification. Now, for a quick summary, before I bring you down memory lane underneath my magnifying glass, Blade was born in 1967 and my mom was born in 1968, so they could have been dating. Either way, when his mother was bitten by a vampire, she went into premature labor and died giving birth to him. Later in life, it's revealed that baby Blade is now the human vampire hybrid vampire hunter. He storms a vampiric rave where blood rains from sprinklers, kicks everyone's ass, and sets a vampire known as Quinn on fire. He escapes when the police arrive. In the hospital, Quinn, the burnt vampire, awakens and kills Dr. Curtis Webb and devours Karen Jensen's neck. He escapes and Blade arrives, saving Karen and taking her to a safe house where we meet his friend Whistler. We move on to the Council of Vampires, a group of pure blood elder vampires, and Frost, who leads the younger vampires and owns the rave club that we saw earlier. Frost wants to wage war on the humans and take over the world for vampires, though no one cares what he has to say because he's not a natural born vampire, basically calling him inferior. Also, the vampires don't want to wage a war on the humans. They've been doing great right now. Once Blade finds pages from the Vampire Bible, he then goes to Pearl and through torture by UV light finds out Frost wants to do a ritual using 12 pure blood vampires to awaken the blood god, aka La Magra, and Blade's blood is the key. A bit later, Karen creates a serum that explodes when combined with vampire blood. Karen also synthesizes a vaccine to cure the infected, but it won't work on Blade. A little earlier, Frost kills one of the elders of the Vampire Council and breaks into Blade's hideout, killing Whistler and abducting Karen. When Blade shows up, it's revealed his mom is still alive and taken by Frost, who was the one that bit her. Then all hell breaks loose. Blade kills his mom, La Magra is free, but with a bite to Karen's neck, and it's a very sensual scene. Blade is back and defeats Frost's goons, Frost, aka La Magra, and pledges to continue his crusade against the vampires. So Blade's 1998 is a lot. I said his movie's origins at the top, but in the comics, Eric Brooks, aka Blade, was born in Soho, London in 1929. His father, Lucas Cross, was framed and taken as a prisoner to Latveria. His mother, Vanessa, then died during birth. As an orphan, he was raised in a brothel. The later was founded by Jamal Afari, the vampire hunter, and he trained and mentored Brooks. He taught him to fight, hunt, and kill vampires. And after that, Blade had run-ins with everyone. Mephisto, Dracula, Saracen, fighting alongside Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, truly a ton of folks. And
everything is a mess. Work, this house still isn't right.
In Marvel Team Up number 7, he was attacked by Morbius and turned into a daywalker. His stories are endless and very fun. You really can't have underworld, demon, spooky stuff without looping in Blade to the story. At the top of the movie, we're introduced to one of Deacon's minions, Peter Quinn, aka Quinn for short. Now, Blade takes place in Earth 26320. I need to find an easier way to say that. But in the comics, there is a Peter Quinn from Earth 616, and he was a mutant known as Peepers. He was introduced in 1977's Captain America Annual number 4 and was recruited by Magneto to join the Brotherhood of Evil. He's been on a ton of different teams after Magneto dropped him, and his powers are X-ray vision, telescopic vision, and optic blast. Our Quinn in Blade has the same name but clearly no likeness, and seeing as he dies in the end, I don't think he'll be making a big return. Though Peter Quinn, the mutant, did have ties with Mandrill, who we suspect was in the intelligentsia in She-Hulk, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him mentioned as a member of the Toxic team as well. But ultimately, his return might seem pretty low as well. One of the most fun things about Marvel is how easy it is to make it feel like you're the one punching the bad guys and saving the world, and now Marvel's got a mobile game that lets you just do that. Marvel Snap is a fast-paced card battler that was created as a love letter to Marvel fans like me by Ben Brode, the designer of Hearthstone. And you guys, Hearthstone is one of my favorite games, so you know this is gonna be good. It's got Marvel cred and card battling cred. Marvel Snap pits two players head-to-head. Mobile. Steam and mobile. I know you got one of the two. Your account is a cross-platform, so any progress you make on your PC will show up on your phone and vice versa. Click the link in the description below to download Marvel Snap and start playing it right now because you're gonna love it. The vampire raid has blood spurting out of the sprinklers, which yes, completely gross. And I don't think a single drop landed in any one of these vampires' mouth. They kind of just rolled in it and rubbed it on their body. Anytime they're taking in blood in this movie, they're just licking it. They're not even like eating it. Whatever. This scene though, with the sprinklers raining down blood, is now featured in actually the 2021 Blade, The Death of Doctor Strange, issue number 1. Also, can we please get a little commotion for the aesthetic overall? The CGI and vibe scream Scanners and Matrix. The MCU should be so happy that this put them back on the map because this movie is so fun. It's peak 90s. We're introduced to Dr. Karen Jensen, played by Nabushe Wright. Jensen is a hematologist. Hematology is the study of blood and blood disorders, something I can't live with. The MCU has a ton of women in STEM, and this one should not be forgotten. Jensen only made an appearance in the first Blade movie, but seemingly created the cure for vampirism. And in the second film, they used it to cure Whistler. Now, this character could make an appearance in the new film because the possibilities are endless if she does. If we bring back her concoction in the hands of good or bad people, could be a treatment or a curse. This could possibly tie up loose ends or play for the good stakes game to come back. The chances of them mentioning this cure or even Dr. Karen Jensen, I feel would be really high. And because this movie seemingly uses pretty vague names, of course, there is a Dr. Jensen in Marvel Comics. Dr. Jensen that worked for Hydra, and then there's a Dr. Jensen in Earth 21923, but they weren't named after our Dr. Jensen. We're later introduced to the Vampire Council, or the Shadowy Council, which is nothing like this Vampire Council, which features our boy Wesley Snipes. I mean, Blade. So, canon? I doubt it. I mean, unless maybe Taika Waititi features Blade in something? You know what, forget it. Either way, the vampires are grouped into clans of houses. One house is the House of Erebus, named after the Greek god of darkness, and clearly they take that book of Erebus to heart. We later see the vampire Bible, which contains all their history. There was a prophecy in the Bible that if you use the blood of 12 pure blood vampires and one Daywalker, it would awaken La Magra. That one Daywalker was so when they got it, the silver and all that stuff that they can do in sunlight would also affect La Magra. Who would have thought? The plan by Deacon is ultimately free La Magra and turn the population into vampires. In the movie, La Magra created the first vampire, aka Drake, aka Dracula. Normally, La Magra is immortal and invincible, but because Mercury ruined the ritual by killing a pureblood at the end, it was never complete. Therefore, it was easier to kill Deacon once he became him. Also, this god doesn't exist in mythology. The members of the House of Erebus are very hard to pronounce, and I'm so sorry, and I'm not gonna try butchering their names. This movie came out in the 1990s. I'm sorry. Here's a list of them. Let's just do it like this. Let's do it around my head. Each of these members have a different tribe and they have a different glyph reflecting that tribe, though Frost uses their own glyph. They don't really have a house. Also worth noting, none of these members are in the comics, but whom they work for and intend to release kind of connects to those in the comics. We'll get into that shortly and how this clan could be important to the MCU going forward. Just as a reminder, there's a hierarchy to these vampires. There's pure bloods and turn bloods, which is what it sounds like. Pure bloods were born as vampires, they're the higher ups. Turn bloods were humans turned into vampires and they're known as inferior. Then there's familiars, humans willing to serve vampires, like the cop we saw in the movie. Daywalkers are aka Blade, Revenant, which we see in Dr. Curtis Webb later, and Reapers, who are like enhanced vampires that are much more dangerous. Frost Deacon is a turn blood, which is why they treat him as an inferior. Though he has so many followers, the purebloods don't give two shits about him. In this movie, the antagonist is Deacon Frost, who doesn't share likeness to the comic book character but still exists in Marvel Comics. The OG Frost was one of Blade's biggest enemies. He walked around looking like an old German man in 1860s Germany period style clothing, but his doppelganger was made up like a preacher. He was the scientist who accidentally injected himself with vampire blood and turned himself into a vampire. When Vanessa Brooks, Blade's mom, arrived at the hospital experiencing labor complications, the doctor, Frost, feasted on her while she was giving birth to Blade, giving him the half-human, half-vampire powers. So it's not too far off from the original movie, but the character Frost could make a larger return. Deacon Frost of Earth 616 is a complete menace and a boss. Not only does he have regenerative powers, superhuman acute senses, can manipulate the weather, he can bite you and it automatically gives you the powers to generate a doppelganger. And he could make more just biting the doppelgangers, and they would be under his mind control. No one wants to go up against that. That's a true villain, and an annoying one at that. A character like Deacon Frost would be so cool to see again, because no matter where Blade goes, the Blade anime, the one-shot comic, a Marvel Ultimate, this dude is always harassing Blade. His appearance on Earth 616 I can see making a huge comeback.
We're about to see if these two antiperspirants can stand up to the heat.
That's it.
Also introduced to Abraham Whistler, Blade's mentor, whose family was killed by a vampire, so he's sworn revenge ever since. Whistler has been Blade's mentor since he was a boy and helps make his weapons, though in the comics, he was originally mentored by jazz musician Jamal Afari. Now, there is an animated version of Abraham Whistler before Whistler made it into the Blade movie. Marvel decided to use him in a Spider-Man cartoon because they liked him so much that it stirred up a bunch of legal disputes because screenwriter David S. Goyer created that character and Marvel didn't own it yet. New Line did. Genuinely, I don't think we'd see this version of Whistler because we'd probably want to see Blade work with a new mentor and we could explore his comic origin or create a new one. Blade wasn't only trained by Jamal Afari, he was also trained by Stick, who you probably remember as the man who also trained Daredevil. So we've already got some training origin story that we can get into that crosses over the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. We also learn in this movie that vampires have weaknesses, like most vampires do. Crosses don't do squat, vampires are severely allergic to silver, they'll go into anaphylactic shock when fed garlic, of course. The good old sunlight UV rays still work, and so do steaks. Some of the items that Abraham makes for Blade are the vampire mace, the silver nitrate essence of garlic, the Benelli M3, I don't know guns, I'll be honest. Go figure, so I might pronounce these all wrong. The Benelli M3 Super 90 shotgun, modified to shoot silver steaks, along with his Mac 11 that's shooting hollowed point silver bullets filled with garlic. It's so fun that they just made like this the most cartoony kind of like how to kill a vampire, but it was said in an interview that the director and writer was like, we didn't want to make it like a corny and use like crosses, because what if a Jewish vampire showed up? And I appreciate that. I respect that. In the script, then deleted, they speak on Blade's sword was actually originally Whistler's and was handed down from vampire hunter to vampire hunter. It was also revealed the original wielder killed Lamagra. This was in the first script and they took it out later on. So maybe
Look at Jewish,
they're gonna try bringing it
Jewish
back.
vampire.
What we see here is once Frost is able to
Crazy.
translate and decipher the archives, it's a blueprint to release Lamagra. Clearly, it mirrors the ending of the movie where we see all the purebloods standing in a circle around Deacon and Blade in his wrist-cutting chamber above. Also, look at these graphics. I love this 90s stuff. We're introduced to the record keeper, aka Pearl. Now, Pearl was made for the movie and their origins are basically unknown, but in the recent comic books Darkhold Blade #1, Blade was meant to stop the elder god Chthon. And when reading the Darkhold, it made him see a universe where Frost became Lamagra and everyone turned into vampires, and Kingpin became the vampire king of New York City. And when he had an unquenchable thirst for blood, it made him gluttonous and turned him into Pearl, what we see here. Would we see a Pearl Wilson Fisk? I don't think so, but so fun to add. Maybe if we get a glimpse of a different universe and we see it, I'd like that. Additionally, there is a quick series for Blade called House of Chthon, which we know created the Darkhold. Now, the series doesn't get tied to the MCU nearly as much as the movies do, but the idea that the other houses represent or follow different gods, and one of those gods is Chthon, is a big deal. That opens the door for those followers to maybe reach the once Wondergore Mountain and be like, what happened here since Multiverse of Madness? Or a bunch of spooky characters meeting up in the name of their Lord and Savior. So many possibilities, and this is one I can see heading into a newer Blade movie. We're also introduced to Ebony Adams, the little girl martial artist that kicks Blade's ass for like 2 seconds. She was traveling for a martial arts competition at the time they found her. So I like little kids that are actual badasses. That was my favorite part of Thor: Love and Thunder. So I would love to see this person make a cameo back in the new Blade movie. The female vampire we later see is Mercury, one of Deacon's henchmen who dies by Karen's hand at the end of the movie, having the mace shot into her mouth and her head exploding. She's not mentioned much in the comics, but she does mess up this ritual, so let's remember her. Once the ritual begins, we see the glyphs light up and electricity soar into the heads of purebloods. Winged bat-like skeletons unhinge the vampire's jaws, exploding out of their mouths. And doesn't this kind of look like the Multiverse of Madness, the Souls of the Damned? It should! In the comics, we had a similar ritual that needed Blade instead of Deacon, but ended up going into Deacon anyway. It was named Varney, who served for the cult of the Darkholders, and was made into a vampire by the Darkhold. Now, do I think these demon winged skeletons are the Souls of the Damned? Yes! They're demons that inhabit the Darkhold. And though we don't know much about La Magra, they could have also too, inhabited the Darkhold. Demons, vampires, monsters will overlap over time in the MCU, so it's not too far off to assume these creatures live around the same spells. So La Magra, Varney, even Saracen, who we saw in She-Hulk, there was a fly that went near my face, Mephisto. Either way, those vampires should be crossing paths soon. Deacon, when yelling at Karen, begins explaining that blood god is a hurricane, an act of God, which is actually pretty funny because there was an alternate ending for this movie. When Deacon becomes La Magra, it was supposed to be a tornado of blood instead of manifested into Deacon. So this could have been shot before they followed through with that. They maybe just got that line, thought it was still good, and then shot the blood tornado hurricane and was like, never mind. And it's very silly. Look at it. Because Mercury sucks, Deacon La Magra is defeated by Blade, and we're served the best line to ever be served in cinematic history.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
That's just some of the things I've spotted and theorized. Blade is truly a great movie and really worth the rewatch because there's a lot of things that can be taken from this movie into the Marvel Cinematic Universe again and even go into bigger pictures. We can just get into it more. And I know they can do it, and I can't wait to see it come out in 2024. Just go rewatch it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lulu_Clemens. Follow New Rockstar. Subscribe to New Rockstars and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and remember, motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.
Damn, okay. Not gonna lie, I did not think of Blade like it's that much. That shit is crazy. What if they made Deacon into like an old dude in the movie? Like instead of like a whatever he was, like he acted like a fucking jackass, like a millionaire jackass or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. To be honest, bro, I gotta see Blade 2 in order to see if Blade 1 is really good or not. Because people say, or I like to say that sequels, if they live up to the expectations of the first one and beyond, that makes the first one even a little bit, not better than the second one, but that makes it, watchable at least. But anyways, man, if you guys like my reaction to this video, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, motherfucker.